Norm's Conquest is a really interesting episode of Cheers to watch because I love Norm. Norm and Rebecca are my favourite characters, and I love anything that focuses on Norm. However, there are some really horrible behaviours in this. Not behaviours that the show supports, but we see some characters acting in some very unfavourable ways, and it's quite uncomfortable to watch. So it's a very interesting viewing experience. This was the 20th episode of the second season, directed by the wonderful James Burrows. And Norm takes on a new client as an accountant, and she's beautiful. It's this woman called Emily. She's played by Schedeen, and Norm enjoys her company. And he's not really thinking about doing anything with her, but a lot of the guys at the bar really egg him on and basically encourage him to have an affair. Even Cliff, which I think is one of the hardest things to watch because I always want Cliff to want Norm to do the right thing and to do what's best for Norm, but even Cliff is encouraging him to take advantage of this opportunity because Emily clearly is interested in him. And we have the guys basically calling him a coward, saying that he's too chicken to go through with having this affair, and basically making him seem like a lesser person for not wanting to do it. And that's really uncomfortable to watch. And as I said, it's not that the show is saying that that's how Norm should feel, but these characters are the ones with that perspective. And honestly, it's really unclear what's going to happen. You want Norm to do the right thing, but when you have this much peer pressure and people basically calling you all of these horrible things because you won't do it, how much of that can you take before you snap and just say, fine, I will do this thing that part of me wants to do anyway? Because obviously Norm wants to be with a beautiful woman, but we also know he loves Vera, and it's just completely unclear what's going to happen. And I won't just now say what happens, but I will, with a spoiler warning, in a moment discuss what happens and also share a couple of personal highlights. There's one very funny moment that I adored, and a couple of other things that I want to mention specifically. It's obviously an interesting narrative to bring forward because for the most part it is uncomfortable to watch, but for the right reasons. If I wasn't uncomfortable watching these people treat Norm this way, then that would be a problem because that would mean it would be acceptable for them to behave that way. It's also not the funniest episode, I will be honest, and I mean, that's not saying much because Cheers is usually hilariously funny, so if an episode is less funny, it doesn't mean it's boring. But just compared to a lot of other episodes, it's not quite as hysterical. But I still really enjoyed it, and I think that's because Norm is such a great, likable character. And I think that regardless of what the outcome with Norm would be, I'd still love him. I'd still have respect for him because I love him to bits. My love of Norm is basically unconditional. But if he makes the wrong decision, I know that that's going to have well, I'd be heartbroken. And whether or not I am, of course, I'll discuss in a moment. So it's a very different episode to watch because I'm kind of on tenterhooks with it. Of course, this is the second time I've seen it all of the way through, so I knew what was happening, but certainly the first time I watched it, I remember having these feelings. So it's a very well done episode, but it's definitely not as light or as easy to watch as some other episodes. And we get a tiny bit of attention on Sam and Diane where Diane points out that basically Sam will never be with another woman again. And Sam begins to realise that. And, well, Sam's clearly not ready for commitment, but the episode doesn't really do more than just scratch at the surface of that anxiety. It's a good episode, but a little bit different from the average. Well, I say that. There are a lot of episodes that deal with topics that revolve around conflicting human emotions that are maybe not as hilarious as some others. But the point being, if you're wanting an episode that's very easy and light to watch, there are better options. But nevertheless, very well done, very well written as well, particularly one moment. So I'll discuss now, with a spoiler warning, what happens and a couple of personal highlights and funny moments as well. So spoilers from now. What Norm ultimately does is realise it's not the right thing to do. But he doesn't want the guys at the bar. And I say guys, meaning mostly men at the bar, but also Carla, which I thought was quite an interesting perspective. But he doesn't want the people at the bar to know that he didn't go through with it. So he lies and keeps up this bravado. But we know, and the people at the bar know, that he didn't go through with it. And it's such a moment of relief. But then we find out when Norm lets his guard down in this beautiful scene where he's in the back room with Sam. And I really like the fact they had the distraction of the pool table. I think it allowed Norm to kind of focus his hands on something so that he could then speak to Sam without feeling like he was being stared at or like he had to focus his attention on Sam. He was able to talk without worrying about those things, and he let his guard down and revealed to Sam the real reasons, and basically he's only ever been with Vera. And it was a moment of allowing us to dig a little bit deeper into Norm and who he is as a person. And of course, this happens as the seasons go on. We get tidbits of information here and there. But it was a really eye opening moment, and I rather enjoyed it. I thought that was a very well executed scene. And then when Diane came in and gave this beautiful speech about how ladies respect him, and I use the term ladies because she did, of course, about how they respect him and really appreciate his outlook and the fact that he's not just sleeping with women left, right, and centre. It was so well written, and of course, very well delivered by Shelley Long. So ultimately, it was a really great episode, even if it's maybe not the most comfortable to watch. My favourite moment, and I think really for me, the only truly funny bit, is I won't give you the punchline. I know I said spoilers, but I still won't give the punchline. But it's when Diane says to Norm, "If you were a woman, we'd have a name for you," and it's what it's what Coach said in response. Coach is often a source of great comedy, and it's such a well. I won't say too much, but we don't get enough of Nicholas Colasanto. I'll say that it's a great episode. Maybe not the funniest, but I think it had a message to deliver. It did a great job, and ultimately, I really enjoyed it.